This wasn't a debate, it was a demolition. Sarah Pochin went on Politics It Live and managed to deliver one of the most chaotic, tone-deaf and flat-out embarrassing performances that we've seen from Reform so far. From the moment she spoke, Pochin wasn't there to debate, she was out there to shout. She talked over guests, ignored questions, and any time she was challenged, she just got louder. It was such a cracking start that she either hadn't done her homework or couldn't even be bothered to address the other MPs by their first name.
I haven't spoken yet. So what I'd like to say, how fascinating that the Labour representative on this programme today took exactly 2 seconds to mention the name Nigel Farage, which is all Labour seems to be able to do at the moment. The Tory and the Tory and the Labour member, you've had your say, then proceed to argue.
And this is the way her contributions pretty much went. She steamrolled every conversation.
How are these two going to pay for it? The Tories spent 14 years ignoring this problem, whilst, incidentally, whilst the Ukraine war started, we had war in Europe and you were doing nothing about it.
But anyway, let's get back to the point you made. We did nothing on Ukraine. That is a complete nonsense.
I didn't say
we
that.
We were the first country
I didn't say
to go
that.
in and support
war in Europe and you were doing nothing about it.
How would for Ukraine and Zelensky?
No, I didn't say that. I said you've done nothing about getting
Let him answer the point about Ukraine.
No.
Then came the numbers, or should I say lack of them. Sarah insisted that Reform could save $225 billion by scrapping net zero policies. But here's the thing, that money, it's not government spending, it's private investment, and she was called out for it. Even the Institute for Government, the very group she cited, said so. She was quoting fiction, and when she gets called out for it, she doubles down on it.
Investing and getting our own gas out the ground. Why aren't we using our own oil out the ground? No, Sarah, you've had your say. The point is we could be self-sufficient in energy. We're just bringing nuclear on board. But to be fair, that's been a Tory policy that the Labour are now talking about today.
How are you going to pay for all the nuclear?
Well, we have talked about... We don't know every single costing element of our policy.
Yeah, but you do have to...
4 years out. The point is
no, but you do have to answer broad questions, Sarah, about this, because you have a lot of policies, including lifting the income tax threshold to £20,000. I mean, that will cost billions and billions of pounds.
It will. But as we quite clearly said, and we have talked about how we're going to cost it. We've been talking about it for the last 3
billion
weeks.
pounds it's going to cost, at least?
For example, we've costed scrapping the net zero projects over the next 5 years will bring in £225 billion.
That's very much disputed by a lot of the experts, because they point out that a lot of the spending on this is private companies. It's not the government.
It is private companies.
And
by the way, it's not a Reform calculation. Sorry, Sarah. This is an IFG calculation, which is what Nigel Farage said. I was at that press conference where he stood up and he said, this is the Institute for Government that's come up with this number. Now, the Institute for Government, I called them that afternoon, they said that that is a total spend across the economy, most of which, as Kevin says, is private money. So that is not money the government can save by scrapping.
And we can argue about what exactly the figure is. The point
that's not exact. That's a major hole in this very expensive promise that we're talking about.
Hold on. That's a major income to scrap those projects. The other projects that we've talked about quite clearly, you deport, you get rid of the illegal immigrant, the foreign national offenders in our jails. Whoa, gone.
But 50 billion to 80 billion pounds for
you get rid of
one of your policies
immigrants here in the country that are costing £46,000 a year each. Whoa, millions.
And your major way to pay for that is you said 220 billion pounds saved by scrapping net zero projects. That's a huge number.
It is.
Will you admit that most of that number is not government spending, so is not there for the government to save?
I'm not going to admit that at all, because the point is we are saying to you, look at that area.
Sarah Owen does an amazing job of calling out her dog whistle politics.
What do you make of the need for a debate about the burqa?
Slight irony there. Sarah talking about husbands not being telling their wives what to wear, but quite happy with the state telling women what to wear. I don't think that's where we should be. Zaya Youssef called it dumb. I would say it's dangerous and disingenuous, if I'm honest, the way that PMQ was phrased. Dangerous because less than a year ago we saw riots in our streets because of dog whistle politics, such as what we heard just then. We saw mosques attacked. We saw people scared. People that I know, my friends, constituents of mine in Luton, that were absolutely terrified to even go out because of that sort of debate and the tone of that debate. And secondly, I'd say it's disingenuous for all the points that Vicky's just raised around safety. You couched that PMQ in terms of safety. If you were talking about safety and face coverings, why not ask the question about balaclavas instead of burqas? I haven't finished. I haven't finished. I haven't finished. If it was genuinely about public safety, why not ask the question about balaclavas rather than burqas?
But Sarah, how many women have you spoken to about wearing the burqa? Do you speak to women about this? I mean, there's not very many of them, according to this.
I'll tell you what, though.
You can.
No, I
speak to women wearing burqa all the time.
I campaigned hard in Bolton's South East years ago, 10 years ago. And when I say you can't, if a woman has got a burqa on and they're in the streets, you cannot talk to them. They won't talk to you because they're not allowed to talk to you.
That's not
Sarah,
true.
final word on this.
That is totally untrue. And actually, when Kemi says she wouldn't speak to somebody wearing a burqa in a surgery, women can take off their burqa in front of another woman, and that has happened with me. And I just think that when we talk about this, we need to talk about this responsibly, because I don't want to see the repeat of what happened in summer. Maybe you do.
Can I?
Oh, and just when you thought it couldn't get even more unserious, she tried to laugh off her mug stunt as a joke.
I just show one more image, Sarah. The photo that's emerged of you, which I'm sure you've seen, with a mug, and on it is a photo of Keir Starmer, which is him wearing a hijab. Where did that come from? Why did you do that?
Honestly, you probably won't believe me, but you're doing a walk around up and down a market. It was campaigning. Someone thrust a mug into my hand. I saw two-tier Keir and his face, and a snapshot was taken. Actually, that photo was never, ever used publicly. That photo was destroyed as soon as we realised, out of respect, as soon as we realised he was in a burqa, the photo was destroyed. It's been leaked by someone I sacked.
And do you regret doing that, or would you...
Oh, no, it was a bit of fun at the time. Of course I don't. We've got a sense of humour in this country, and actually I still think it's quite funny, but we never used it publicly. That's just come out through, sour grapes. These things happen, but it's a bit of fun.
Did she regret it? No. She got it a bit of fun. Imagine running for an office and thinking this is a good look. Throughout the whole debate, Sarah didn't explain how reform could fund its policies. She waved around phrases like cut waste, ditch woke, scrap DEI, but when asked for numbers, she had nothing. And yet she still insisted on everybody else that was lying. Classic projection. If this is what reform is bringing to the national stage, shouting, shaky maths and culture war distractions, they've got huge problems, because it's not just Sarah Pochin that didn't win the argument. She didn't even show up prepared for one. And it was quite nice to see that Labour and the Tories actually put their differences aside for a couple of moments just to shoot her a look that says, "What on earth are you talking about?" The Tories, however, have their own problems at the moment, and Kevin Hollandrake was trying to claim that you can be free to choose whatever you like to wear, but we'll also try and ban what you want to wear. Yeah, try and work that logic out. Well, you'll need to watch the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.